Spallner drove a new car downtown. He talked and laughed again with his partner Morgan up in his private office. This continued for a half hour. All the while they were talking, at the back of his brain a small watch ticked. A watch that never needed winding. It was a memory of a few little things. "I seem to have a penchant for accidents these days," said Spallner. "I got out of the hospital this morning, and the first thing on my way home I detoured around one." "These things run in cycles," said Morgan absent-mindedly. They went on talking for half an hour more, until there was a hard, blunt metal noise, a grinding and a rending from the street. Overlooking the intersection from the fourth floor, both Spallner and Morgan had a good view of an accident in birth. A truck and a cream-colored Cadillac. "What did I tell you?" exclaimed Morgan. "Cycles." A great bond of ice closed in on Spallner as he stood there looking at his watch. At the small second hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. People running. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. From all over, people came running. 15, 16, 17 seconds, and more people and more cars and more blowing of horns. Spallner shook uncomfortably. He couldn't stop shaking. He was afraid. The crowd gathered so fast. Spallner kept looking down. He saw a woman's body sprawled a few moments before the cordon of curious people ate it up. He was frozen and shaking and afraid. He kept swallowing hard. Morgan noticed. "You better sit down, old man. You look lousy." I'm all right. Leave me alone. I'm all right." Can you see those people down there?" "I wish we were closer. I wish—" He strained his eyes to see. The faces were all a blur. He tried to concentrate on one or two of them, but the crowd was jostling and mixing. He couldn't draw a bead on any one face. Once he thought he saw a red-haired woman, but he couldn't be positive. "Have you a pair of binoculars, Morgan?" "What in hell for?" "I want to take a look." "Sorry, not here." "Now look, this isn't at all good for you. You're pale. You're shaking." Spallner tautened himself with an effort and turned. "Will you come along, Morgan, and hurry?" "What's the rush? Where are you going?" Spallner thrust the door aside and hurried out. Morgan paced after him to the elevator. They waited. Spallner impatiently. "If only I'm there in time." "Time for what?" "Don't mind me, I'm insane. Here we are. Come on." Elevator doors sliced open, shut behind them. The floor sank. Stratas of offices whipped past them. Street floor, doors opened. Spallner strode out, his head bursting into a fiery ache, the scarred brow throbbing. The street, confusion. Spallner vaulted across the metal confusion of the intersection, his dark eyes probing, prodding, demanding. Momentarily he glimpsed a face in the crowd, the face of the red-haired woman with too much powder on her face. "There, Morgan, there! Did you see her?" "Who?" "Damn it, she's gone! The crowd closed in!" He plunges through the bodies, legs, elbows, startled faces, rough voices. The little red-haired woman had been about halfway through. Evidently she had seen him coming. She was gone. Another recognizable face, a little boy with freckles who was crying. But there are many little boys in the world. They have freckles and they cry. And anyway, it was no use. This little boy ran off just before Spallner reached him. Slipped into nothing. "Is she dead?" someone asked. "Is she dead?" That voice, it sounded so very familiar. Where he'd heard it before. "She's dying," someone else replied. "She'll be dead before the ambulance arrives. They shouldn't have moved her. All the faces in the crowd seemed vaguely familiar. Spallner brushed through them, seeking, hoping, afraid and alert. "Hey, mister, stop your pushing. Who you shoving, buddy?" All the different faces, though he couldn't be sure of any of them. The siren was whining as he elbowed back out to Morgan, who caught him as he staggered and almost dropped. "God, Spallner, you look awful. Better get some rest, quick. Why in hell did you come down?" "I don't know. I really don't." "They moved her, Morgan. Someone moved her." "You should never move a traffic victim. It kills them." "I don't know. I really don't." "They moved her, Morgan. Someone moved her." "You should never move a traffic victim. It kills them. It kills them." "Yeah, it's the way with people, the dumb saps." "I haven't much to go on," said Spallner. "As far as ordinary logic goes, anyway." He arranged newspaper clippings carefully, side by side. He placed them. Finished, he motioned at them. "Take a squint at these, Morgan. See what you think." Morgan squinted and then winced impatiently. "What's gotten into you?" he complained. "Ever since your accident, you act as if every traffic scramble is a part of your life. What's the idea with all these clippings of motor car crack-ups, all these photos?" "It's not the cars, Morgan," Spallner said quietly. "It's the crowd that gathers after the accidents. Look at it. Look at the faces. Compare one picture with another." "This is silly. Here, this accident in Wilshire District. Compare it to this one in Hollywood. No resemblance. But now let's align it with another snapped in Wilshire District 10 years ago. He pointed. This woman, she's in both pictures. She's the same woman, wouldn't you say so? Yes, I'd say she was. But what does that have to do with your phobia about accidents? Simply this. These pictures were taken 10 years apart, and the accidents occurred about 3 miles from each other. So what? This woman happened coincidentally to be there. Once maybe, but 8 times over a period of 10 years? No. Look. He dealt out 6 more pictures, each dated about a year apart. She's in all of them. Maybe she's a pervert. She's more than that. I don't know what, but there are 2 other points. How does she happen to be there so quickly at each accident? And why does she wear the same clothes in pictures taken over a 10-year period? That's right. She is, isn't she? And last of all, she was standing over me the night of the accident a week ago. Spallner made a file, putting pictures and duplicates into the file. He marked crayon rings around familiar faces. This done, he had evidence that almost convinced the skeptic Morgan. What, asked Morgan, does this all add up to? I don't know what it adds up to, except that there's a universal law about accidents. Crowds gather, they always gather, and people just like you and I have wondered from time to time, from time immemorial, why they gathered so quickly. I know the answer, here it is. He flung the clippings down. It frightens me, I don't know how to figure it. These people, mightn't they be thrill hunters, perverted sensationalists with a carnal lust for blood and morbidity? Spallner shrugged. He sifted the papers through and through. Does that explain their being at all the accidents? Notice that they stick to one territory. An accident in Hollywood will bring out one group of faces, an accident in Huntington Park another. But there's a norm for faces. A certain percentage appear at each accident. Morgan gaped. They're not all the same faces, are they? Of course not. Accidents draw normal people, too, in the course of time. But these, I find, are always the first ones there. Who are they? What do they want? You keep hinting and you never tell. Good Lord, you must have some idea. You've scared yourself, and now you got me jumping. I don't know. I've tried questioning them, tried even getting to them. Someone always gets in the way or trips me. I'm always too late. They slip into the crowd and vanish. They get away. The crowd offers protection to some of its members. They see me coming. Sounds like some sort of clique. It is. I don't know what you call them. They have one thing in common. I know. They always show up together. At a fire, an explosion, or a sidelines of war, at any public demonstration of this thing called death. Vultures, hyenas, or saints, I don't know which. I just don't know. But I'm going to the police about it. It's gone on long enough. One of them shifted that woman's body 2 days ago on 7th Street. They shouldn't have moved her. They shouldn't have interfered. It killed her. His eyes narrowed. Or I just happened to think of it. What? Maybe they wanted her dead. Busy stuffing a briefcase full of clippings, Spallner shivered. I'm going down to the police station now. Come along? I have an appointment with my wife. Oh, yes, I forgot. See you later, then. Give my regards to the cops. Think they'll believe you? Oh, they'll believe me, all right. Good night. Wilshire Boulevard was dimmed out because of the war restrictions. Huge billboards and neon lights were darkened. Street lights themselves had been enfeebled into sickly illumination. Spallner took it slow and easy, driving downtown. I want to get there alive, he told himself. Driving depends on 2 things, your car and others. Other cars do quick, fatal things. A huge freight truck just ahead of Spallner suddenly threw on its air brakes. It stopped too suddenly. Spallner shouted, jammed his brakes, ramming his new car, crashed into the rear of the truck. The windshield hammered back into Spallner's face. His body was forced back and forth in several lightning jerks. Then all motion stopped. All noise stopped, and only pain filled the night. After a long silence, horns began to honk. Somebody screamed. Traffic jolted into shrieking standstills. The car had not turned over this time. But there was a crowd. Spallner shrugged to climb out of the car. His heart bounded. His lungs caved in and out, wheezing horribly. The car door cracked open and he slipped, fell down onto his face, and lay there bleeding. You're a lucky man, Mr. Spallner. If that gash had been 1/8 of an inch deeper... Never move a traffic victim. You might kill him. His head was bleeding, thick red blood. The crowd gathered out of nowhere. He tried to move. He realized something was wrong with his spine. He hadn't felt much, but it was hurt. He couldn't move. He didn't dare move. He couldn't speak. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out but gagging. Someone said, "Give me a hand. We'll roll him over and lift him into a comfortable position." No, no! Spallner's brain burst apart in a scream. Don't move me, you idiots. He'll kill me if you move me. Don't move. You'll kill me. Don't. But he could not say any of this. He could only think it. Hands touched him, grasped him. They started to lift him. He cried out, and nausea overtook him. They straightened him out into a Ramford of horrible agony. 2 men did it. One of them who was thin, bright, alert, and pale, who stared at Spallner and kept wetting his lips as if he were hypnotized, and the other man who was old and wrinkled like an apricot. He had seen their faces before. A familiar voice said, Is he dead? Another voice, a memorable voice, replied, No, not yet, but he will be before the ambulance arrives. It's all a mad plot, like every accident, cried Spallner hysterically at the solid wall of faces. They were all around him, the judges, the jurors, the faces that he had seen before, the freckled boy, the red-haired woman, the girl with the arms that twitched at her side all by themselves. I know what you're here for. You're here just like you're at all accidents, to make sure the right ones live and the right ones die. That's why you lifted me. You knew it would kill me. You knew I'd live if you left me alone. And that's the way it's always been since time began. When crowds gather, you can get away with murder easier this way. You can cover up, saying you didn't know it was dangerous to move a hurt man. He gaped at them. Who are you? Where do you come from? How do you get here so soon? You're the crowd that's always in the way, using up valuable air and a dying man's lungs need. Using up the space he needs to lie in alone. Tramping on people to make sure they die. That's you. I know all of you. Faces. The high school student with a pimpled face, the old man, the red-haired woman. Someone picked up the briefcase. Whose is this, they asked. It's mine. It's evidence against you all. Green eyes inverted over him. Upside down, green eyes staring at him from under a slouch hat. Faces. Somewhere a siren wailed. The ambulance was coming. But looking at the faces, the construction, the cast and form of the faces, Spallner knew it was too late. He read it in their faces. They knew. Spallner tried to speak. A few fragments got out. It looks as if I join you now. I guess I'm a member of the band now. He smiled wanly. Just remember one thing. He chuckled painfully. At the next accident, whenever it is, tonight, or tomorrow, or next week, it's I who will be the first one there. You'll find me when you all arrive. He closed his eyes then and waited for the coroner. This has been The Crowd by Ray Bradbury.
The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. The shadow knows.
Next week, same time, same station, Blue Coal, America's finest anthracite, will again present another thrilling adventure of the shadow. Be sure to listen, and be sure to burn Blue Coal, the solid fuel for solid comfort.